might do a good job and you might do good work that you're proud of, but it's not necessarily the same thing as doing what is valuable to others. What are people willing to pay for in your own work as an entrepreneur and as a creative?
The thing that I'm doing today isn't what I started creating. It was the evolution of me chasing fun. Like, oh, that sounds fun. Let's do that again. And then there was some other stuff that I did. I never want to do that again.
Welcome to Creator Debates, where we have stupid arguments to help creators make smart decisions. My name is Justin Moore. I'm the founder of Creator Wizard. I'm your host and referee. Today we're talking about passion versus profit. You know, from a really early age, I was always fascinated by money. You know, I negotiated with my parents to earn extra allowance by doing more chores. I tutored other kids. I even did car washes in our driveway where I dragged a sign out to our main street to attract customers. Now, putting aside that I may or may not have raided my parents' pantry to set up a car wash snack shack, netting me 100% profit, I learned a valuable lesson. You know, the harder you work, the more profit you can make. But as I've gotten older, making money and the material drive that I once felt has somewhat lost its luster. I find myself drawn to passion projects that don't have an obvious profit potential. I gotta admit though, I still feel that itch in the back of my brain when I create something from pure passion. Like, what's the angle to make a profit from this? Maybe this is the blessing and curse of every creator? Honestly, I'm not sure, which is why I asked two experts to settle this passion versus profit debate once and for all. Today, we're joined by Krystal Proffitt, host of the Proffitt podcast. She's a passionate advocate for empowering creators to produce top-notch content with confidence. And yes, Proffitt is her real last name, and no, she's not arguing for profit. In the other corner, we've got Madison, aka MADkurious, who's an ex-Fortune 50 analyst and MBA turned freelance consultant who helps create meaning through gaming, business, and storytelling. So by the end of this episode, you'll know whether you should focus on passion or profit at different times throughout your life, how that focus will impact audience engagement, and honestly, the only thing I really care about, who is a better creator debater, Krystal or Madison. So let's get into opening arguments. So Krystal, tell me why you believe pursuing passion projects is important as a creator. You have 2 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just go ahead and start with sustainability. It's really the thing that, I mean, I've been doing this for enough time to see people rise like a shooting star and burn out and die like Pluto. Like, do we even call Pluto a planet anymore? Like, this is what happens so often as I see people, they just come out of the gate and they're creating something and they're looking around and they're like, okay, how can I make money? How can I make money? How can I do this? How can I do this? And those are usually the ones that burn out the fastest. They're trying to force this creative thing that they started with, this message that they know they needed to share, and quickly turn it into profit. And it really just, they burn out. They burn out so fast. So my argument for passion is just to find something you love that you know you can really help other people with and share that message. And not only passion, but fun. I love making things fun and really heading in that direction every step of the way, no matter what kind of content you're creating.
Wow, well, Madison, not only are you going to have to defend your take, but also Pluto. I don't know why Krystal came for Pluto, but you know, so I have a question for you. Is pursuing your passions really feasible for creators today? I mean, at some point, everyone has to consider profits to survive, right? Mm-hmm. 2 minutes.
Well, you know, in history, we have actually had, like, throughout all of history, we have had historical evidence of people making money for their art. So Leonardo da Vinci is one of those. He's a great example. You know, The Last Supper and the Mona Lisa were both commissioned. And those are two that we consider some of the best art today, right? And so money is simply a basis of trade. It's just so that we can do work that helps others and other people can do work that helps us, whether that's something that's a need like farming, getting your food, or whether that's art. And I think if we're deciding that, you know, art isn't something worth giving money to, that's actually, you know, a different perspective than art being valuable. And so art is valuable. And I think that it's okay to do that for money because it's all jobs and all work and all entrepreneurship, which art and being a creative is entrepreneurship. Even if you're not making money for it, even before you make your first dollar, it's going to cost you time and resources. So why not get resources back in return so that you can continue to make that art?
Very interesting. All right. Well, ladies, let's get into round one, which is all about timing. So Madison, let's go to you first here. There have been so many studies that have reflected on what people say when they're on their deathbeds, right? They almost never say that they wished that they worked more or wish that they made more money, right? It's that they wish they spent more time with family or maybe pursuing things that they were passionate about. So knowing that, shouldn't the advice that we're giving to creators at the very start of their careers be to not focus on profit? 2 minutes.
That's a really good question, because I actually don't think so. And deathbed thoughts aren't something that we can't access at any time. It's interesting that we go towards those because it's something that people are thinking consciously about. They're just thinking consciously about their decisions that they've made all throughout their lives, right? And we can do that at any given time. And a lot of people just don't stop to do it because we're distracted, we're busy, we're doing a million things. And so we can actually stop and have that perspective right now if we want to. It's just facing our own morality and consciously thinking about what's important to us. And so people likely say that not because they hate money or they think the pursuit of money is bad, but because they wish they'd pursued other things instead. They wish they'd pursued things that were more important to them. And so I think that, everyone has different goals, and whether that's doing something creative or spending time with family or making a little bit of money, more money so that you can get something that you really desire, those are all different goals and everybody's going to have different ones. And so I think the only way that art can ever be just passion is if you don't show it to anyone. It's just you. It's just you with that art. And so as soon as you show it to someone, it's now communicating something. And because you're communicating something, you're giving something. And the results that art can have, the power, the money, the personal passion, the helping others, the facilitation of net good, any of that is like a sliding scale. And they can all be moved to help each of those little different things. And so it's kind of selfish to think of just making art for yourself when you can do all of these other things. And so I doubt that's what someone on their deathbed means, is to say that you shouldn't focus on doing the things that you love and in spite of anything else. It's probably a more nuanced approach to consciously enjoying your moments while also doing your passion. And so I don't think it's like an either or. I think that you do have to make money in order to continue what you're doing, in order to survive, in order to help others. And so you can have your passion align with making a little bit of money while you do it.
Interesting. Krystal, want to get your quick thoughts on Madison's take there, but also I wanted to harken back on something you said in the intro, which is like, there's a lot of creators who try to monetize very early. And, one big difference between creators coming up now and when my wife and I started on YouTube back in 2009 was that you literally could not make money. I mean, it was a passion project, right? I mean, we got rejected from the YouTube partner program or AdSense program several times before finally getting in. Like, it was just not a thing. And, honestly, we really struggled for years to make it work because we weren't focused on ensuring the business was profitable. And so curious, like, don't you think that monetizing earlier on in the journey might be beneficial though? So 2 minutes.
Yeah. When I think about when you're monetizing, right, you're thinking about making money with your content. The first thing isn't how do I make money to monetize an audience? It's how do I keep this thing going? Like, I love Madison's point is like, you should be paid for stuff, but also my first thing is baseline. How do we keep the lights on? And whenever it comes to, especially now, I mean, Justin, I'm so sorry that y'all started at a time where you don't have all these amazing resources that we have today that are so much cheaper than they were when any of us started. Like, the cost of being a creator are significantly coming down. We have AI on the scene. So there's so many tools that are out there that it doesn't require thousands of dollars every single month to run a podcast, to create a YouTube channel. Like, you can get started for relatively low cost. So if you're thinking about, well, what does monetization look like? You're probably not going to make hundreds, thousands, millions of dollars as soon as you start your content. But the piece that's really important is, how can I make just enough to cover the baseline of my passion project so it's not eating me up inside? That's like, oh, I can't share this message that I have. Like, I have this important thing that I want to share to this audience that I know I can help them in some way. I can help change their life. I can save them money. I can, do whatever it is that your content is about. But at the end of the day, you also do have to keep the lights on. And so I'm a huge proponent of finding ways behind the scenes that you can make money that also isn't, feeling like you're taking advantage of your audience or you're just blatantly selling to them. You're spamming them in every single episode. And one of the ways that I still push to this day is affiliate marketing. I started with recommending books that I loved on Amazon, and it was pennies, dollars on Amazon. But those little pieces of, monetization are what helped me keep going in the beginning. And I love that. So there we go.
Right at the buzzer. Well, very interesting. Ladies, that is the end of round 1. Okay, now we're moving on to round 2, which is all about audience engagement. Okay, and I think one of the biggest things that we tend to worry about as creators is our audience's perception of us, right? And I think a lot of us are very terrified of being called a sellout, for example, right? And so, Krystal, I'm going to go to you first on this one. Is there a danger to avoiding that conversation with your audience forever and just never monetizing at all? I mean, isn't that kind of an important step in a creator's evolution? 2 minutes.
Okay, I have 2 quick stories that I want to tell about this. So one is about a podcast I used to listen to back in the day. I mean, we're talking like 2016, 2017, and they would always say, we will never have ads on this podcast. We will never sell anything on this podcast. I mean, it's very clear what happened. They started selling things on their podcast. And I was just like, I was so betrayed as a listener that they had said this for so long. I was like, I'm done. Like immediately turned it off, never turn on the podcast again. So there's that perspective of how you could handle the situation is you blatantly say it's never going to happen. Then you do it. Your audience never going to trust you again. Or my other story is a recent one for me is I was called a sellout. Like I had a podcast review that was like, used to love this show. She advertises stuff all the time. She recommends tools, blah, blah, blah. You're never going to please everybody. You're always going to have those people that call you a sellout just for recommending one simple tool that you absolutely love. But at the end of the day, I look at, are the things that I'm recommending, are the products that I'm endorsing really helping my audience to help them on their journey, to leverage them to have bigger growth for themselves? And that's really the perspective that I take. Again, you're never going to please everybody, but just know that you have that valued connection with your audience and you're offering them valuable products and services. And I sleep well at night when I know that the companies that I align with are aligned with my audience.
Tell me, just quick follow-up there. Were you pissed off when you got that review? Because, I mean, if you're focusing on passion and maybe there isn't a lot of material success or rewards that you're seeing on a project, let's say, and you get vitriol like that, that's got to affect you, right? I mean, like, what was how did you feel when you got that?
Well, it was the gut reaction that we all get. We could get 1 million 5-star reviews, but it's the one star that's just like, oh, I thought about it for 3 days afterwards. But then I was like, you know what? I stand by everything that I have been putting out on my podcast. And again, I sleep well at night. I'm just like, that person's never going to be happy. They probably stop listening, and that's okay. They'll find other content that's right for them.
All right. Well, Madison, first, I want to hear one memorable thing that a troll said to you. And secondly, like we've all seen the other extreme too, right? Which like when all it seems like a creator does is sell stuff or shill stuff, right? Mm-hmm. And so isn't their audience going to become kind of desensitized and eventually like tune them out? 2 minutes.
So the first one is interesting. I've had a lot. They usually focus on looks, right? They'll focus on something there. One interesting one was where they said, oh, this video only has 30 views. You worked so hard on this video and it only has 30 views. So they were like penalizing me for working hard on something because they could tell there was effort there. That one skyrocketed. So I came back when it had 30,000 and I might have sassily commented on it a little bit and said, you mean 30? But you know, it's and so they actually were trying to get me for that, which was interesting. Then for like the main question, I think, you know, everything that we do offers value to other people unless we're keeping it to ourselves, right? So an interesting story I have from when I worked in the corporate world was that it wasn't the value of my work that was getting me paid. I did some really good work that I was really proud of that I knew was improving processes and helping the people who I was delivering that work to. But then what's funny is the priorities of the people above me that might give me the raises or the promotions, they were at odds with the people I was delivering to the customer, right? And so they were at odds because they wanted something that would impress their higher ups, that had the right little elements here and there, that did exactly what they needed at that time instead of what would help my customer. And so because those priorities were at odds, it's kind of like a similar concept to in content creation. You might do a good job and you might do like good work that you're proud of, but it's not necessarily the same thing as doing what is valuable to others. And so you have to kind of like constantly marry those two things together and think, what is going to help others? What are people willing to pay for in your own job? And then in your own work as an entrepreneur and as a creative, it's like, what is going to help people? What's my real goal with this? Is it to show off how good I am at this? Is it to show off art that I'm proud of? Is it to show off, like, communicate something effectively? You know, and you have to think about your goals there and then really achieve that. And if that is also trying to get money, you want to provide that value for others. And if you want to change the world, you have to provide that value for others. And so if you're only thinking selfishly about, I'm producing this for me, you know, then it's not gonna work.
Well, Krystal, I'm sure you want to chime in on that, but first, a word from one of our sponsors. Real quickly, remember your first podcast episode, your first YouTube video, your first blog post? Think back to how it felt to hit publish on that early piece of content. Now, look at how far you've come. Your content has transformed, and so have you. But has your email marketing platform kept up? Do you even have one? Enter this episode's sponsor, ConvertKit, which is the email marketing service designed specifically for creators like you and for me, because I use it and I love it. Whether you're crafting newsletters, managing subscriptions, or sending updates, ConvertKit grows with you. With easy integration for your blogs, your podcasts, your YouTube channels, and your e-commerce stores, ConvertKit ensures that your email marketing works as hard as you do. Look, I'm gonna be real with you. When you press publish on platforms like YouTube or TikTok, you're kind of at the mercy of the algorithm for your content's reach, right? And to prove it to you, I'm actually gonna pull up one of my recent Instagram reels. Okay, I'm gonna click the insights here. Okay, look at this. I have 11,300 followers, and this reel reached 301 accounts. So quick math, that is 2%, 2% reach. Contrast that with my average open rate in ConvertKit, which is between 40 and 45%. So which one do you want? 2%, 45%, 2%, 45%. Which one are you gonna pick? So take control with ConvertKit. Here you can own your audience relationships directly. There's no middleman, there's no unpredictable algorithm changes, just a direct line to your followers. ConvertKit isn't just another tool, it's a partner in your creative journey. So if you're ready to create with freedom, automate with ease, and engage your audience like never before, build a platform you own. Start with ConvertKit today at convertkit.com. That's convertkit.com. All right, let's get back to it. So really interesting point you brought up there, Madison, of that sometimes the quality of your work product is detached from actually being recognized financially, let's say, get a raise, get, promotion, this type of thing in the corporate setting. Sometimes I think there's an analog there with creators too, right? Which is that, you could create content that performs really well for an algorithm or for, your whatever feature the algorithm. You remember when Facebook was like promoting live, right? They would put people's notifications for people's live streams at the very top of the notification bar. And it was like everyone who was doing live like grew really big and stuff. And so you can be kind of performative where you are, the algorithm is saying jump and you say how high, but then on the other end of the spectrum, when you ask people to sign up for your course or purchase something from you, perhaps the conversion won't be there. And so, Krystal, I'm curious your thoughts on how you reconcile those two things, because somehow I feel like it's you have to split hairs there.
Yeah, and I mean, I was just talking so I have 3 kiddos, and our middle son is 12, and he was asking me about my YouTube channel. He was like, and I get this a lot from him and other people that aren't in the creator space. They're like, why isn't your YouTube channel bigger? Right? Don't you just love that when people are like, why don't you have 1 million people following you? And you're like, well, the easy answer is blah, blah, blah. But he said to me, he was like, didn't you mention that your YouTube channel could be so much bigger? And I was like, what the heck is he talking about? I don't even remember saying that to him. But what it was is I had said, oh yeah, I could absolutely make my YouTube channel so much bigger if fill in the blank. And this is really how so many people have the approach of like, I could do A, B, and C if I just had a budget, or if I just had more time, or if I just had this. So I think for me, I always go back to boundaries with a creator. Like, what kind of creator do you want to? Do you want to have a lifestyle creator, like where you are just on 24/7, you have your phone in your face and you're constantly connected? Or like me, like I spend less than 20 hours a week on my creator business and I no longer work on the weekends. And that's really where I think everybody watching and listening should just evaluate how do you want to show up? And if that fits into an algorithm, awesome. If it doesn't, then that could be something that you can explore other ways to blend that, like just close that gap of what can work for you and how you can serve the algorithms that be.
Madison, how do you think about that in terms of the balance side of it?
Very similarly. And again, I think of it as like sliding scales, right? So it's funny because people will be like, oh, your viewership is down, or, oh, you're not making a lot of money, or, they'll look at all these things and it's like, or you might look at those things yourself. And none of the activities that you're doing is going to help all of them go up at once. Right. And so you might be doing something that is going to help viewership. You might do something that is going to help get you affiliate sales, or like I do live streaming. So I might do something that I know might affect people wanting to, might incentivize people giving money, but it might not be for as large of an audience. It might have that niche audience. And so it's these things that you can do to control, like basically pulling the different levers. Right. And so it's not always about viewership. Sometimes you need the money and the resources and the things to get there. Sometimes you have enough money and now you're focused on the viewership. Sometimes you have both of those things and now you're focused on, okay, I can kind of experiment and create what I want now. And so you have to really analyze where you're at, where you want to go, which levers you want to pull when to kind of keep the train going, right?
Congratulations. That is the end of round 2. Now we're going to get into round 3, where we'll talk about how focusing on passion or profit might impact you as the creator. So Madison, I'm going to go to you first on this one. What about the risk of burnout? Right? Or let's say disillusionment with blindly pursuing profit? 2 minutes.
It's a huge risk. And I've experienced burnout many times in this creative career and in my regular career. And that's where I think this whole question is interesting, because I don't think burnout at all is unique to being a creator or an entrepreneur or an artist. However you want to look at it, it's all something that we experience all throughout life because we're focused on the wrong things usually, right? So whether you're doing something for passion or profit, many people who don't make enough money will get burned out by the stress of trying to make money. And if you are focused on that money aspect, you're going to get burned out. You're not even focused on the work anymore, right? You're focused on, is it making money? And so for me, I like to see life as a game. And, sometimes that game gets hard. You need to rely on other people. Sometimes you're putting puzzle pieces together. You're like, oh my goodness, this is great. Sometimes you're kind of leveling up. And so you can, every single job that you do is an entrepreneurial endeavor. And so the same thing can be said for job, like regular job or art, right? Is that you can get that burnout. So it's all about focusing on the things that are really bringing you life. And so, a lot of people will talk about writer's block. That's a similar concept of getting like burnout and that sort of thing. It's one of those things that you have to then just like change your perspective on. You have to think about where are you focusing and why? And is your burnout from the art? Or is it because you're focused on what the art is trying to do? And is there something you can do to better that for yourself?
One thing I pulled out of your answer was this concept of enough. What is enough? I've struggled with that question throughout my entire creator journey, because it's really hard when you're constantly in a state of like, where is my next dollar going to come from? And it's not guaranteed like it is on a normal full-time job. I don't know. It's really hard to escape that mindset for me, at least. Krystal, I've heard a lot of creators share, like with me specifically, personally, that they experienced a tremendous sense of failure when they realized that they just couldn't make their passion project work anymore, and they had to go back and get a real job, right? And so how do you think that'll affect like people psychologically long-term? 2 minutes.
Yeah, I think that, whether it's like Madison was saying, like burnout is so real, and feeling like whether it's burnout or it's just like, this isn't making money. It's not hitting the things that I thought it was going to do. It's stale. And it's like just a ship out in the water with no rudders, it's just there. And that it's the thing that you're like, I'm so passionate about this. I always tell people to reevaluate and say, but what can I still do that feeds that passion? So I actually have a folder I have a filing cabinet right over here in my office, and it's called Ideas That Didn't Work. And it is literally printed out, I don't even know what all is in there anymore. I haven't looked at it in a while, but it's like taking all of your ideas that you're like, that didn't work, but what can I do now? Because even though the thing that you tried, I don't know about each of you, but the thing that I'm doing today isn't what I started creating. It was the evolution of me chasing fun and finding things. I just kind of like a squirrel zigzagging everywhere. I'm like, oh, that sounds fun. That was like, let's do that again. And then there was some other stuff that I did that's filed away, and the ideas that didn't work is like, I never want to do that again. So even if you have a failure, which we all do, all of us here today are sitting on top of our failures, it's how can you approach it to say, well, what can I do? Do I need to up my skill set? Do I need to connect with more people? Do I need to become more of an expert so that I feel that confidence of being a trusted person in my industry? Like, there's so many things that you can do, but you don't have to look at something as a quote failure and stop your journey there. Maybe you do need to go back to getting a job, but go back to a job that you love, that can give you all of these skills, and you're getting paid to educate yourself in the thing that you're passionate about. And then you can always come back to it with a fresh perspective.
Interestingly, I flew to Salt Lake City a few weeks ago to meet with an old coach of mine. And the format was pretty open-ended. He basically I sat down in his office and he's like, so what do you want to talk about? This type of idea, right? And I went in there expecting to talk about business stuff, like, oh, here's how I can make more money in my business and grow and all that stuff. And what came out of my mouth was all passion related stuff. It was like maximizing time with my family and spending as much time with my kids before they, are teenagers and don't want to hang out with me anymore. And like all this stuff that I don't know where it came from, but it just came up. And it's like, I never allow myself to go there. It's all day in and day out. I'm always thinking about the business and the profits and all that stuff too. And of course you need that to like keep the lights on and the ship, sailing and everything. But I don't know. I feel like when I allow myself to go there, I guess I give myself more permission to like access that part of me, which is like, so I don't know. It maybe goes back to something you were saying, Madison, about the balance, the need to kind of figure out what it is, how you can, access both parts of you at different stages of your creator journey. Well, super interesting. Krystal, Madison, it is time to make your final appeal. On the other end of your camera, on the other end of your microphone is a creator who is relying on you to make this tough decision. So convince them that focusing on passion or profit is the best move for them. So Krystal, you're up first. You have 1 minute.
Okay, so I think at the end of the day, this entire conversation shouldn't be about which one is the only one to focus on. You need passion and profit. And from my perspective, leading with passion, like I said, chasing fun and like just going after the thing that is that message in your heart that you want to share can be the thing that propels you through the first months and years of your journey to get you to that profitable side. But absolutely lead with passion and chase that fun in your creator journey.
All right, Madison, you're up.
So we have to do something to survive. Why not make it something we love? And again, I want to reiterate what Krystal said. It's the balance between the two, right? It's doing both. And so why not make it something you love and meaningful enough for others to trade their passions for as well, so that we're all improving each other's lives in these meaningful ways. And not all art needs to only be self-serving. We can make it for others. And there's nothing wrong with serving others with our creations, especially in ways that make money, so that we can continue to survive and can continue to grow those art pieces and grow all of those creative passions. And so when I look back one day at my life, going back to the question from before, I hope that's exactly what I can say I've done.
Well, thank you so much, Madison and Krystal. And now you, dear creator, watching and or listening, who won this creator debate? You can vote by clicking on the link in the episode description or letting us know on social media by tagging @CreatorDebates. You can tag Krystal and tag Madison. So Madison, hit us with the call to action. Where can people learn more and follow you on social media?
So I have Mad Brands, that's my company, and most of the work that I do is under MADkurious with a K. That's my gaming brand, and I do a lot of work over there with live streaming on Twitch and Twitter are my two main ones. And then I have 2 YouTube channels, and I have series coming out on both of them. First will be on the gaming channel. It's actually doing something that combines this type of thing together. And I also have a book series that I just published as well that goes over a lot of this. And this is basically the chapter 1 of that book, is this kind of discussion. So I would love for everyone to check that out as well.
Awesome. Krystal, hit us with your CTA.
Well, first of all, my boys, who I do have teenagers, they're going to be checking out Madison's, like all of her YouTube channels for sure. But you can come hang out with me at krystalproffitt.com. That's Krystal with a K, and Profit has 2 F's and 2 T's. But if you go over there, I have a free podcast boot camp for anybody that's interested, but you'll also see all the links for my Instagram, YouTube, all the things and all the places. But I'd love to know what you thought about this, because this is so much fun. Thank you, Justin, for having me.
Absolutely. And by the way, now it's time for Creator Debates After Dark, where Krystal and Madison are going to stick around for a little bit longer and share their stories and spicy hot takes on the creator economy. So these After Dark episodes are available exclusively to students in my Brand Deal Wizard program and community. So if you'd like to support what we do here and level up your sponsorship strategy, check out the link below. And finally, if you enjoyed the podcast, there's one simple thing that you can do that is totally free and truly helps us out. Will you tell a friend about Creator Debates? Whether it's sending them a text message with a link to this episode or posting about it somewhere on the internet, the only way that we can reach more creators is with your help spreading the word. So thank you. All right, that's a wrap. Until next time.